Hi, I'm Joy, a board member of SoulSpark Learning and doctoral student studying gifted education at the University of Denver. For this session, I will be interviewing Shalelia Dillard, founder and executive director of the St. Clair Drake Enrichment program in Denver. Shalelia will share how students who are multiracial, Black, Indigenous, or people of color can make the most of opportunities in gifted education. First question. As multiracial gifted women, you and I have had to challenge and overcome many misconceptions. What are common myths about giftedness that negatively impact students who are Black, Indigenous, people of color, or multiracial?
Well, Joy, the demographics that typically represent gifted and talented honors classes that you typically see in classes are predominantly white, despite the overall diversity of the demographics that represent that specific school. Um, and because of this, there's a stereotype that these classes are only for white students. Um, and this misconception or myth is typically uh, with people that are Black, Indigenous, people of color, multiracial students. Um, and this is one of the reasons why they don't want to be in those classes. And many of my interviews that I've had with a lot of students, within varying ethnicities, the common theme that arises is that since there are white students in those classes, they feel like the only people that can be in those classes are white, and that they don't have a space in those classes, and that they will not be seen. Um, and that they're deemed like not good enough because they don't see the representation of their personal ethnicities in those classes. Um, and for our older students that are in honors, advanced placement, and international baccalaureate programming, this is the case as well. But also there's the misconception that uh, there are schools that there's like a large pricing tag that goes with these classes, and because their family um, doesn't have the means to provide those lofty pricing tags, that they're not able to be in those classes, and they're just not aware that a lot of school districts, especially here in Colorado, are covering those prices. There's also that pervasive harmful myth that Black students are less intelligent, which stems from culturally and economically biased assessments and racism. And this myth is ridiculous and have been addressed by many scholars and forgotten pioneers such as Dr. Martin Jenkins, Horace Mann Bond, Lillian Proctor, and Viola uh, Thiemann, among others. And so you also start to see students who are in these classes that are white, that are not seeing the students that are of Black, Indigenous, people of color, multiracial students in these classes. You start to see that they're like, well, maybe we are more intelligent than these ethnicities. So unfortunately, that is a horrible myth that is still pervasive in gifted education.
It's such a problem. I know a lot of scholars working to challenge that again, because it's been challenged, but they really need to make it accessible to others. What are the consequences of people believing these myths about students? You mentioned some already.
Yeah, so um, it really affects the students' self-efficacy for the majority of the consequences. And so again, they're not believing that they are smart enough. They don't believe that they could ever be gifted, quote unquote. And so they are limiting themselves on the amount of academic opportunities that can come along with uh, the great opportunity to be in gifted classes and be with people who share similar intellectual abilities that you have. Um, and it really doesn't allow them to activate their giftedness. And so it limits their potential. It limits the beliefs in really the educational system, because they know that they're gifted half the time and sometimes they don't. But those are the students who do know that they're gifted, know that there is something missing from their academic you know schooling, and just they don't necessarily know like how to take advantage of those opportunities, because again, they don't feel like they belong in those courses. So the other thing is that because let's say that there is a student who is in gifted and talented programming or advanced coursework, they are missing connections from their cultural peers, and that has another psychological effect on students, because then you have to decide between your intellectual peers and your cultural peers. And especially for middle school and high school students, where they're trying to find their identity and who they are and where they belong in society, this can have dire consequences for who they believe they are, and who they believe that people who they are, and who they where they can go as far as like their academic success.
How can parents and educators create a body of evidence to help identify their students who are Black, Indigenous, people of color, and multiracial to receive gifted services?
So the first thing that I would say is that you need to start recording and documenting the activities and extracurricular activities, tutoring, educational services. For the talent perspective, definitely like recording their accomplishments and any of the talents that they possess, and then recording that into like a portfolio of some sort. And then making sure that you're looking at the student's strengths and interests, and specifically when it comes to multiracial, Black, Indigenous, people of color, looking at the culturally relevant activities that the students participate in. And tools like parent surveys and interviews, those are super helpful in creating a body of evidence as well.
Why is it important for BIPOC or multiracial students to receive access to services and resources?
So all the reasons, right? All the reasons. And some of those are that, studies have shown that students who are able to take advantage of their giftedness and being in, educational service, taking advantage of educational services for their abilities, have they're less likely to be in like remedial classes when you go to college, which we all know that remedial classes don't count towards your degree, and you will wind up paying more for your degree. And so that's something that we're trying to avoid as well. And then also you'll be like more equipped for success in college, and just all around having like a better academic career, because you are challenged, you're thinking critically in these classes, and you're around peers that also have the same academic abilities as well.
I'm sure many people would love to learn more about how to support students. So, who is doing good work, in your opinion, to support diverse gifted students?
Well, schools that I would research, schools and school districts that are utilizing universal screening and local norm techniques. This is really increasing the percentages of students, specifically students of color in the gifted area. And then also, of course, I would be remiss to not mention my program, SED Enrichment program. And then we have Dr. A. Wade Boykins, his work, Dr. Donna Ford, her work, Dr. Joy Lawson Davis, and she is actually the author of a book called Bright, Talented, and Black, A Gifted for Families, of African American gifted learners. And even though this book is specifically for African Americans, the strategies and the information that she discussed in that book can be used for many other ethnicities as well. And of course, Colin Seal, who's with Think Law, and Dr. Marcia Gentry with Purdue, Dr. Joy Esquerdo from University of Texas, and the Consortium of Underrepresented Racial Groups in Gifted and Talented. And of course, here in Colorado, the Colorado Association for Gifted and Talented, and the National Association for Gifted and Talented. So I would definitely research all of those resources.
Can you share more about your specific program, SCD Enrichment, and how your program supports students of color?
Sure. So we have a unique perspective. We believe that students should be supported through an ethnic history course that teaches critical thinking skills and really gives them a safe space to
Tell me more about your specific program, SCD Enrichment, and how your program supports students of color.
So we support and recruit students of color in gifted education for middle school and high school, and we support students through various ways, various components, one of which is an ethnic history course that students are taking, and it incorporates in critical thinking skills. And this is really important because it also creates a safe space for students of color to be in one space with people who look like them, and they are able to learn those advanced skills to help them either in advanced classes or to prepare them for advanced classes if they're going into high school. And then we support them with a college student of color mentor program. And there we have college students of color who come in and mentor the students and help with tutoring and just overall direction for the path that they're supposed to take to be successful in college. And then we have a leadership part of our program, and there the students are they go into their schools by taking the information that they learn in our program and creating different leadership opportunities. So whether that is creating like a club or creating a conference or just speaking to their principals and teachers about the importance of learning about ethnic history and encouraging more students to be in gifted programming, super important. And then we have business professionals of color come in and talk to our students to help motivate them and encourage them and just show that it's okay to be gifted. It's a great thing, and it is okay to be gifted and a person of color. So super important.
That's really fascinating. I really like the use of mentors and representatives to come in and talk to your students, because I know as a young gifted child of color, I didn't understand the opportunities that even existed, and I didn't even know to pursue some. And now I wish I had. So I want to say thank you so much, Shalelia, for sharing your perspectives and suggestions to help gifted students who are Black, Indigenous, people of color, and multiracial to make the most of these opportunities. It's really inspiring to hear about your work at SCD Enrichment, and thank you for sharing your knowledge with the SoulSpark community.
Thank you.